Welcome to Ordinary Teachers and Students, where we get to hear teachers and students tell us their extraordinary stories. My hope is that through this podcast, ordinary teachers from around the world can relate to the stories they hear and get some timely suggestions and ideas. My name is Alan Cheng, and I'm a secondary school teacher in the UK, a life coach, and a former university lecturer. My mission is to make the education system a better place for all. Today, I'm delighted to invite Isaac onto the podcast. Isaac is a Year 12 student at a local grammar school in the area where I live. You won't believe this, but I met him while helping out at a local Chinese takeaway. So after chatting to him for a while, I found that he was mature beyond his years when talking about education. That's why I decided to invite him onto the podcast. So let's welcome Isaac. Hello, Isaac.
Hi. So I've never done this before. It's really weird.
No worries. So first of all, that wasn't much of an intro because I have only met you once, really. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself? Like, apart from you being a Year 12 student, anything else that you can tell us about you?
I guess if we're going to talk about my school life, that's going to be the main discussion of this. So I go to an all-girls school for grammar for sixth form, which sounds weird, but sixth forms in gender schools are usually mixed. And I study maths, computing, film, and German for my A levels.
Maths, computing, German, and one more?
Film.
Film, yes, like film studies. Yeah. Okay.
And then before I went to the all-girls school, I went to an all-boys school as well. For my GCSEs, I did obviously English, math, the three sciences, and then history, religious studies, German, and computing.
Sure. I guess we can start with maybe what made you choose those subjects for A level, like so maths, computing, German, and film studies.
Maths and computing I chose mostly just because they're the ones I wanted to study for uni, I guess. But German was a last minute decision. I was originally going to study politics, but then my family said that they really think that a second language would be useful, which to be fair, I think England has there's a very big mindset in England of not having to learn a second language because so many places, specifically in Europe as well, so many places in Europe and across the world speak English a lot as well. And so I found with a lot of people, they don't consider a second language worth knowing, which I disagree with because I find with German, it because when I first took it for GCSE, I thought I'm not really going to need this as much, but you never know when a language just has to pop up. You never know when you have to know a second language. And just all the time, I just find myself randomly thinking, oh, that's German, just using my German knowledge. It's actually really cool. And film is just, so I really liked English literature, but I wasn't particularly heavy on books. So I thought film studies instead, because film studies is just English literature, but films instead.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I also did German for my A level, so I definitely think it's a good choice always to have that second language, like you said. I'm curious then, so you're pretty much done with this year, so your Year 12 years coming to an end. Any regrets in terms of subject choices?
No, I actually don't really regret my subject choices that much. I think I like all my subjects a lot. And well, part of it is for doing 4 A levels with me. I'd say it's good that I enjoy all my A levels because all my friends who do 4 A levels, a lot of plenty of them have stopped doing it because they don't like a subject, even though they are smart enough to continue with 4. I have a friend recently who dropped chemistry A level, and they are one of the smartest people I know, but they just did not like chemistry one bit. So I don't really have many regrets. I always had a regret from GCSE about not doing a creative subject because I wanted to do DT or drama or music, but my school didn't GCSEs. They only did 10, so I just ended up doing religious studies and computer studies as my 3 choices. But that's why I decided to take film as well. Like I really because film there's a lot of creative aspects to it. I get to make my own short film for the
Yep.
summer for my coursework, so I think it's just really like now I can actually like do a creative subject and being happy with it.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. If I kind of take you out a little bit away from your current school life right now, I'm just curious how your primary school life was like.
My primary school life was very weird to be honest. I did because I was a neurodiverse kid, had ADHD, autism, and
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't diagnosed until I was like 6 or something.
Okay.
But the primary school, my first primary school I went to, it wasn't very good at all.
Mm,
Accommodating for these, and then when I got my autism diagnosis, the like the NHS person GP, they said like you should probably like they said to my parents you probably consider sending them to like an actual school that can cater for
mm,
this.
mm,
So then I went to a school that was like half an hour drive away instead.
mm, mm,
From primary school that was just down my first primary school was just down the road. Um, and then I just said so the other one was like much more catering to my needs, much better, and I ended up going like only needing like the actual accommodation for my neurodiversity for a year, and then I ended up going into mainstream. I ended up taking the 11 plus, which is the test to go into grammar schools.
yep.
Um, and I ended up like so my primary school life. It wasn't that bad that I wasn't like particularly happy with it either. To be honest, there's also
Mm,
because there was also just in my first primary school, there was this one woman on the council who just she did not like my family. She constantly was trying to get me kicked out of school, and
oh,
like
okay.
technically she couldn't do it because of the fact that because of my neurodiversity, like
Mm,
all the stuff she was trying to get kicked out was linked to that, and she couldn't do it
mm,
legally. But then eventually my parents were just like too sick of fighting her, so they just moved me.
mm. I'm curious to know like about your neurodiversity. So thank you for being quite like open and genuine about that. How did
Mm-hmm.
that affect your primary school life? Because like obviously when you were younger, I'm sure you probably didn't understand it as well as you do now.
No.
So how was that for you, trying to understand like, kind of what's going on with you and how you might be slightly different from what other people or
Um,
what we normally think is normal, right?
I don't think I had it explained to me till I was like around
Mm,
9 years old, so about year
mm,
five.
yeah,
I never really understood it. I never really understood why I was like put in a different space from
yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know, navigating primary school as a neurodiverse kid, it was very different from doing it as a neurotypical kid. You have to have a lot of like things put in place of an assistant usually.
Mm,
But I think it became much more a thing once I was in high school that I had like about managing all that, to be
mm,
honest. Because primary
mm-hmm.
school, to be honest, I don't really remember
Yeah,
like all the stuff. That'll be more the stuff that my parents would know, to be honest.
sure. And was it your parents who talked to you about it, or was it your teachers?
My parents, they told me I just remember it's like I was like just in the living room and my parents when I was 9 years old, my parents just told me like about what my like how like what neurodiversities I had.
Mm, mm,
And I didn't fully like, understand it at the time.
yeah,
And I feel like even now I might not fully understand it because
mm,
constantly being like new developments on it, constantly
yep.
like new research on it. So maybe I'll never know what it is truly.
Sure. Okay, so if we kind of move down your education path then, so you went on to study at a boys' grammar school, you said, right?
Hmm.
How was that for you then? So if we continue on the theme of being neurodiverse, were you more able to adapt to it? Did the school do anything to help you, for example?
So going to the boys' grammar school, I was immediately placed on an EHCP, which is an educational health care plan, I think.
Yeah.
And so I was given a learning assistant,
Mm,
and I was given these different requirements for when I was in exams and
mm,
everything.
mm.
Um, and it was like it was like there was a lot of worry about the adapting to it, and for a while I didn't really like talk to many people. That's probably the autism in
Mm,
play, but it did take a while. But eventually, like you do adapt, you do get to know everyone.
mm.
Um, and I think the school I went to, they were very just good with how they were. with how they accommodated like all the needs that I needed to have.
Mm-hmm.
And but I will say there is always like improvements that can be made. Sometimes it did feel like it would feel a little bit isolating.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do feel like teachers didn't fully like see me for what I was and would sort of like view me with a bit of an infantilizing perspective.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
but overall, I'd say it was a positive experience in with what they did.
Yeah, sure. How about your friends then? Like, so, like, obviously, again, for children, even thinking about my own like upbringing, I remember having a friend, for example, who was dyslexic, and he always used to be
Hmm.
put in a different room for exams. But I kind of never fully understood it until I became a teacher because I didn't know what was going on, and I just thought, oh, I don't know why. For some reason, you just get put in a different room. Did you get questions
Hmm.
from your friends?
Yeah, all the time. I would like Um, I mean, nowadays, when we were younger, it was much more like they would be so much like they'd ask me questions about it, they wouldn't understand it fully.
Mm.
Nowadays, it's not really like something that's a huge like thing that we dwell on. Like it's just something I'll just casually
Yeah,
slip
yeah,
in, and then we won't really like dwell on it. We won't really talk about it because nothing much else needs to be said. But I had a lot of friends who were like me, who were like dyslexic or had ADHD and stuff like
mm.
that. And some of them were diagnosed by the time we were in year seven. Some of them got diagnosed much later.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like a lot of my friends were in the same boat as me. To be honest, though, it wasn't really like a huge issue. I wasn't. I was. I mean, I was scrutinized a bit from in my year for the neurodiversity, but not
Mm.
like too much. And like just found the right crowd to be with.
Yeah, so it almost kind of feels like when you have other people in the boat with you, it doesn't feel as lonely, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Would I mean, it's a bit of a strange question to ask, maybe, but would there be any benefits to being neurodiverse in terms of academically first?
Well, autistic people generally are much smarter than other people. I've been told like throughout my life that autism can like it can mean higher intelligence.
Mm,
Um, but I would say it can. I don't see this might just be a bit pessimistic, but I never really saw many upsides to these neurodiversities because I've always had to just have like these needs that need to be catered to.
yeah.
And I have to like go to different rooms for exams. I have to like have these exam requirements.
Mm,
Um, so to be honest, I say there are like a few advantages if you dig deeper, but I honestly would say it would be easier traversing the school as a neurotypical kid overall.
mm. Sure, sure. So you've talked about both ADHD and also autism. Which one do you feel affects you more academically?
The ADHD probably it's like it can be much harder to focus on lessons at times.
Mm.
Um, and it is like, and I need like it's the one that makes me need more exam requirements because it's
Yeah,
very easy with ADHD to just spiral like
yeah,
and just like and that's so in exams I get rest breaks and I get extra time,
yeah.
and that's just to accommodate like because at any time my mind can just spiral, it can just go on a loop because my ADHD just I just a non-stop brain which is like
Mm,
constantly thinking, constantly
mm,
running,
mm.
um and so that's just like sorry, I've completely lost track of what I was thinking of. What was the question again? Sorry.
No, I was just asking you, like which one, autism or ADHD, is the one that affects you more? And you were talking about like how lack of focus, um,
Oh,
might be the one, right, that really
yeah,
affects you.
the
Yeah, yeah.
ADHD definitely because the focus. But the autism plays a lot into the social aspect of school, which of course is
Yeah,
a huge part of school as well. Like
yeah,
constantly just
yeah.
having to navigate like the social aspects and everything,
Mm,
and not which autism can affect it a lot because I can't really pick up on like the double meanings of what people are saying. Can't really pick
yeah.
up on like on what people are thinking as well as a neurotypical person is. Like I'm
Mm.
very bad at reading emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very bad at like telling when someone's like angry at me or if someone's
Mm-hmm.
just like tired or just having a bad day, you know.
Yeah. Sure, sure. Um, in terms of ADHD, I'm also curious, like whether you feel you're more attention deficit or hyperactive? I mean, do you know the difference between the two parts?
Yeah, I do. I think with
Yeah.
attention deficit, definitely.
Mm,
I find myself easily getting distracted in lessons. I find
mm,
myself easily just like losing attention and everything. It's like but then also with ADHD there are plenty of like other sides of the coin. Like you like one symptom of ADHD is actually hyperfocus,
yeah. Yeah.
which I have had plenty of times
Mm,
when I was in my GCSEs, and I was like during the run up to GCSEs and during your GCSEs, you're just revising all day,
yep.
every day. It's
Yep.
like non-stop. And some
Mm,
days I just wake up, start revising, and we get to like like halfway through the day, like at 3 o'clock, and I just like wake up from my trance and be like, I haven't eaten today. Like
wow.
I have literally just woken up and I have just
Yeah. Yeah.
revised that entire time, and I just
Mm,
like sort of like just the trance breaks, and I'm just like, oh God, I haven't eaten, like I haven't done anything but revise, and that's just a hyper focus thing because just not like everything to the outside world just
yeah. Yeah.
like leaves my head, and the only thing I'm thinking of is revision, revision, revision,
Yeah.
revision.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating. Like, have you managed to kind of decipher when or how you get yourself into that hyper focus mood?
It's just when I have a task that needs doing, and so obviously the GCSE I have like I needed to revise, and I was like
Yeah. Yeah.
constantly everyone
So
was
it's
around me
urgent,
telling me,
right?
yeah, when it's like urgency, just or just when I really get into the swing of things, when I've been doing something for a while and I just really get into
Mm,
the swing of things, like during competitions, I find myself I also get like that. Like there's a computing competition which I participated in a few
yep.
times, and I just like the lunchtime bell rings, and I just get wake up from my trance, and I just realize, oh God, like I've literally like barely moved at all.
Mm,
Just
mm,
kind
mm,
of like
mm, mm.
I've not paid attention to anything around me, and I've just been just focusing on this the entire time. So I guess it's just whenever
Yeah,
something's
sure, sure, sure,
urgent,
sure.
something needs to be
Yeah.
done, or just I get in the flow of things.
Yeah, yeah. Have there been other things that you've done or you've kind of discovered that helped you to cope with your neurodiversity? Again, if we just focus on academically.
Um, well, I like there's medication for ADHD.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of the medication personally, but
Mm,
I have found that when it's during exam season, when I have been doing the like when I've been just revising constantly, I do find the meditation is really good at just like
yeah,
getting you in that exam
yeah.
mood, getting you like that focus.
Mm,
And I would say also I like the exam requirements the school give me, they are a godsend. I literally would not be able to focus on the exam without them.
mm,
Because as I
mm.
said, I have extra time. I get rest breaks, and I also get a room like separate from everyone else. It's just me and an invigilator in there.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's just because like if I didn't have those exam requirements, I wouldn't be able to just function in an exam, and it's
Right,
just
right,
so
right, right.
good how
Sure, sure,
accommodating
sure,
the
sure.
schools are to it.
Yeah, 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 definitely. For the medication, do you have any side effects? So obviously, I've read about certain side effects, like kind of affecting your appetite, affecting your
Yeah,
sleep, possibly.
yeah. I mean, I have a sleeping disorder already.
Oh,
So, but the ADHD pills actually are good with helping with a sleep disorder. Actually, it like sort of
okay.
turns your brain off.
Helps
And
to calm, maybe. Yeah.
the appetite one's a big one.
Mm,
It does they are known to be appetite suppressants, and it was
mm,
uh, on smaller dosages, which is what I take during the exam season. It's not as big of an issue, but if I ever need like a large dosage, I just like find myself like just cannot eat. Um,
mm.
like it is a bit like it is a big thing. I like that, and
Yeah.
it's the reason why I'm really not a fan of them is because of the appetite suppressants. And then like there are like it does also just sort of turn you into like if you it can also just sort of turn you into a bit of a zombie to be honest as well.
Yeah, yeah, I can
Like
imagine.
you just feel like you're not really there
Mm,
sometimes.
mm.
But as much as like as much as I don't like the ADHD pills, I will say they have been so good when I like have an exam and I
Right,
just
right.
need to get into that exam focus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you decide the medication dosage with your parents, or do you basically take like, or do you think you're old enough now to decide for yourself?
I decide for myself, but I do discuss with my parents which ones I'm going to take and with the
Yeah,
GP as well. I
yeah, yeah,
discuss
yeah.
which one will be ideal for me, which one I should take at the moment. I mean,
Mm,
I've taken I've been on small, like little to zero dosage for ages now.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Yeah.
I used to be on a higher dosage when I was younger, and that was about when my parents were deciding. But since then, like we've worked an agreement, like no dosage when I'm not in exams, like and
Mm,
little
mm,
ones
mm.
when I am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's quite important to have like those kind of almost rules or guidelines for yourself, right? So that you don't
Hmm.
become
Hmm.
too reliant on it. Right. So if we move kind of continue then, so you told us that okay, after your GCSEs, you changed schools, didn't you? So you went
Yeah,
from an all boys school to an all girls school, and obviously for the all girls school because the sixth form they have both boys and girls, right?
yeah.
What kind of drove you to make that decision, and did you have any concerns about being or going to an all girls school after being in an all boys school for
Yeah.
so many years?
I mean, of course, there was like plenty of concerns when I was transferring because, I was like leaving all my friends from the all boys school.
Mm, mm,
I was like going to a completely different environment.
yeah.
And I just be going with like to a place where this place already has all this pre-established friend groups. Like
Mm, mm, mm.
everyone there already knows each other, and I'm just sort of coming and I just have to like find my park just
Yeah.
midway through all this. But I will say I am ultimately glad I chose to leave because
Mm,
at
mm.
first it will be like at first it can like it is like everyone sort of sticks to a pre-established friend groups and stuff, but after like a week or two, everyone just wants to get to know the new people,
Mm,
like,
mm, mm,
and
mm.
everyone just like makes friends with the new people. I've met so many good friends
Yeah.
at the all girls school,
Mm,
and I will say there was like I will say a lot of people are reluctant to leave their current schools when choosing
mm,
their sixth form because
mm.
it's just like familiar, it's what they know. But I will
Yeah.
say I think it's really like so good just to like I think it's so good like going out to a different sixth form and like trying new things, go like because there are so many opportunities out there from other sixth forms that your school like can like your current school might not even like offer as
Yeah. Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the reason I chose to transfer to the all girls school is because it offered subjects like that my other school didn't.
Mm, mm, mm.
Like if I went to the all boys school, I wouldn't be today sitting computing and film studies. I would be, and I might not even be doing German either.
Right.
So
Right.
it, so it's and like those are all subjects I really wanted to do for A level. Those are all subjects I was really like passionate about, and I just think it's just so good to like have gotten those opportunities, and there's been so many opportunities given to me through the all girls school that I don't think the all boys school would have offered.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really impressed because like you mentioned earlier, like obviously having autism would probably mean you prefer routine, you prefer what's comfortable, right? And so
Hmm.
to be able to make this big decision, so it's not just about changing schools, but it's about changing from an all boys to an all girls school, for the purpose of studying subjects that you want to study. I think it's such a brave decision to make. Was it really as easy as it sounds now, or did you have many sleepless nights thinking about and mulling over the decision?
It was a long process
Yeah,
deciding what to do. There were like it was between the all boys school, all girls school, and a sixth form college that was
right.
further away. I would have had to get the bus to get there as opposed to
Yeah, yeah,
the all boys and all girls, which I would have just walked to.
yeah.
And it took a lot of effort to decide
Mm,
what I wanted to do. Like it really is a really hard decision to make. But ultimately, I remember a week before I was about to get my GCSE results,
yeah.
and then after GCSE results, like choose what sixth form I was going to go to. I was just looking over my what the subjects I'd chosen at the other two
Mm,
schools were, and I was like, I just like I was ultimately like I actually don't want to do these subjects.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
because at the all boys school, if I had chosen to go back there, I would have been studying further math, history, and politics, which I would have
Mm,
maths and history. Like history A level was one I really wanted to take.
yeah.
But I wasn't particularly like that too passionate about politics or further
Mm,
math.
mm, 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 mm.
And so it was just about like, but I was just so desperate to like stay with my friends. I was so desperate to just like
Yeah, I can
return.
imagine.
I was so desperate to just like return to just the same normal that I know.
Mm.
But after a while, I was just like, I don't think I will be doing myself a favor if I go back and study these subjects
Yeah.
I'm not really that passionate about and not really like
Mm.
want to do that much.
Yeah, I mean that's so impressive for me, for you to know kind of what you really want to do. Did you make the
Hmm.
final decision with your parents or with support from teachers, or did you just sit in your room and just think, okay, this is it?
It was, I mean, it was just a decision like I made by myself. I was just in the living room and I just decided like I think it's best for me to transfer to the all-girls school. And
Mm.
so I just made the decision. I told my family, I told my friends, like I'm transferring, and like plenty were supportive.
Yeah.
Plenty, and it's nice just to have that final decision because it was a really long decision I had to make to decide which sixth form I was going to go to.
Mm. Mm.
Because I never planned to transfer sixth form ultimately. I had plenty of friends who entered year 10 or even or year 11 and they had made this mind up. They said like I'm going to go off and do an apprenticeship. I'm going to go to
Right.
this sixth form college,
Mm.
but a lot of people were adamant about staying at the all boys school, and so was I. But then halfway through the year, the school told me they can't offer computing for A
Yep.
level, and
Yep.
so just halfway through the year, I was just like, oh god, like this might not be the right place for me to return to then. And it was weird because it was like I had always like since year seven, I'd always envisioned going to that school for sixth form. I always like saw myself
Yeah.
getting stuck with sixth form,
Yeah.
studying A
Yeah.
levels there. And now like I had to transfer. But ultimately now I'm much more like I'm much
Yep.
more adamant that more people should be open to transferring sixth forms. Um, it should be like a decision more people are willing to make in the long run because I had plenty of friends who wanted to transfer and
Mm.
who wanted to do computing for A level and
Yeah.
but they decided to stay at the all boys school because it was the familiar
Because it's safer. Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't think I and for some of them they're doing fine, but some of them I don't think they entirely made the right decision.
Mm.
I
Mm.
hope they're not listening to this though.
Well, my podcast is not that big. Hopefully not. Yeah. So I'm curious then, because you're probably in the best position to really judge the difference between an all boys school and all girls school, albeit like in the all girls school right
Hmm.
now, there's a bit of mix between boys and girls in the sixth form. What's your what's the best question to ask? I think like maybe what were you expecting beforehand, and were those expectations met when you finally went into that all girls school?
I mean, in the all boys school, there's a lot of toxic masculinity.
Mm,
To
mm,
be honest, because it's like sort of an echo chamber for
yep,
all these just these male perspectives. And I was
yep,
expecting that to not be there, obviously, at the all
yep,
girls school, which it is not. The all girls
mm,
school, obviously, it's a lot more like there's a lot more feminism
mm,
there,
mm, mm.
a lot more like people who are advocates for that sort of stuff. Um, but the all girls school it just gets funded less than the all boys school, which um I do think there's not a great like it's not great that's the thing.
Oh,
That's
it's
the
funded less, you
reality.
said, right?
Yeah, it's funded less.
Oh, okay.
I mean there are different there are definitely different like social climates there.
Yep,
Um, a lot of different like politics there and everything. It's although in my personal opinion though, I've never seen the point of gendered schools though.
mm, mm.
I've never seen. I've always felt like it's not. I don't really see why we're still doing like
Yeah,
separating
yeah.
boys and girls because um I mean ultimately all boys school I think they perform worst of the three. Like I think all boys
Mm,
school perform the worst, then mixed schools, then all girls school perform
yeah,
the best.
yeah. Mm,
Which I mean, for where I am, it is the reality. The all girls school that I'm going to it gets the best A level results
yeah, yeah,
in the area. Like it's a really
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Um, it's a really good school, but this is probably not because it's of like the fact it's an all girls school, but it did used to feel a bit more like an exam factory.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm, 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 mm.
but since then they've become so lenient. Like we don't like our uniform is really lenient. Teachers
Mm,
are really
mm.
like lenient, really nice. And so I will say it's much more lenient than the all boys school nowadays as well.
It sounds like you're a bit skeptical though, like that it's a bit too lenient, almost seems like.
Hmm. I will say sixth forms are always like I feel like sixth forms are always just going to be lenient though, like because at this point, like it's sort of trying to prepare you for uni, where
Mm,
in uni
mm,
you're completely in charge of like what happens, what you do. Like you don't even have to show up to your lectures in uni if you don't want to.
mm, 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 mm,
And so a standard in a lot of sixth forms is that like they let us out during our freeze, or if you don't have
mm,
lessons at the end of the day, you're allowed to go, which is the standard in both the all boys school and the all girls school.
mm.
But in there's a sixth form college in the area, and it's a sixth form college I was thinking about transferring to,
Yeah.
and that place is like so much more lenient than anywhere, and it gets
Okay.
like the sixth form college, it gets the second best results in the area, and they are like so lenient on everything. Like if you don't have lessons in the morning, you don't have to show up. If you don't have
Mm,
lessons in the evening, you don't have to show up. Like it's just
mm,
basically
mm.
just like you just have to show up your lessons and that's it.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Um, and like it's very much like you call your teachers by their first names as well, which I've always found a
Mm.
bit strange. I've
It
never
is,
heard of
yeah.
anywhere else
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
that.
yeah. Mm.
But when I've been there for a taste of we did taster sessions for A levels. So I went there for a maths one. The maths teacher introduced himself as Steve, and he was like, "You're like," and he was very adamant that everyone in the class called him Steve, and I was always like,
Mm.
"That's like," I always found it really weird because
Yeah.
but it's very much like trying like not have like it very much doesn't have a teacher student relationship. It's more like just a relationship of like I know what you need to pass your A levels,
Sure,
and
sure,
it's
sure.
like it's up to you of whether or not you want to take that on board.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yep. Are you ready
So
to move on to the quick fire questions as we're about to wrap
a
up?
quick fire question. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Let's go for it. So
Yeah.
try to be as concise as you can. Uh, how do teachers describe you?
Jesus. Okay. Sorry. How do teachers describe me? I think they like my work ethic. I get good grades,
Yep.
so they must like me, I assume.
Hardworking,
Um,
maybe?
Hardworking, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think schools or teachers should do more of?
I think schools should stop focusing so much on attendance and grades, and they should really start to try and think of like students' mental health as a bigger
Mm,
priority nowadays.
mm,
Um, and I've really never seen my schools care so much about attendance and why they care so much.
mm.
Like that's always been a weird one. I always feel like the mental health thing, especially after COVID, and
Yep.
like mental health in teenagers has just plummeted.
Mm,
Like
mm, mm.
I've always felt like this really needs to be a higher priority. I've never seen schools take it as big of a priority as I think they should be. So that's got to
Mm,
be my
mm.
answer. The mental health.
Sure, fair point. And if you could add a new subject that isn't taught at your current school, what might it be?
Um, well, I've seen a lot of people say that they would want to study sociology.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
sociology is a big one because a lot of people study psychology. A lot of people just want to like know how just how our social
Humans work,
planet
right?
works
Yeah.
in the
Mm.
world. Yeah. Personally, that's a tough one for me. Um, I think it would be sociology just because a lot of my friends said they would want to study it.
Mm. Yeah, sure enough. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And do you have any questions for me? So I've fired lots of questions at you. Any questions that you have for me?
Um, I mean, your uni, what's
Lecturing,
your
yeah.
job in the uni? Uni,
I'm lecturing, yes.
what's a metric?
Lecturing. So
Oh, no,
delivering
yeah, a
lectures.
uni
Yeah.
lecturer, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess just what would you say the best thing like to do for uni to make sure that they want you to they want you most, or they'll give you the most offers?
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. I think it obviously depends on the uni, right? And so I always feel that the biggest piece of advice I give to secondary school students is that when you turn up for an interview for whatever you're choosing to study, have a real reason why you want to study that program, and also have evidence to support it. So a simple example is I did my degree in business, right? So if you turn up for the interview and you say, "Oh, I'm interested in business studies because I want to be a business person," right? And then they ask you, "Oh, so why do you want to become a business person?" And you say, yeah, I'm interested to make lots of money." It'll be much better if you could actually give actual evidence of you maybe trying to do some business related things, as in maybe
Mm-hmm.
go out and volunteer, go out and do like to get jobs that are might be related to your future business. So whatever you do, I would say make good use of your time particularly during the summer holidays as it's coming up, right? To
Mm-hmm.
add things to your resume that are relevant to what you want to do in the future. I think that says a lot. I think that will make a big difference between those who get selected for interviews and those who don't get selected, because otherwise you're
Yeah.
just saying like it's a lot of empty talk of, oh, I love it, oh, I've loved it for a long time, and you can't really show any concrete evidence for that. Yeah.
And what do you think people's biggest mistake in uni is generally?
You mean for interviews or as in choosing anything at all?
I guess for interviews or I guess both, I'd say, to be
I would
honest.
say the first thing that came to my mind was choosing a program that their parents wanted them to study is one that we often see. So before I was actually lecturing for university for like training teachers, and I've had
Mm-hmm.
students where they really did not like teaching, and it was very much like, oh, my parents wanted me to do this because they're both teachers, and so I think that's probably the biggest mistake that I've seen myself. Yeah. Right. I think we've almost reached the end of our podcast. So just one last question is simply any teachers who left a big impression on you, like for better or for worse?
Oh, my year 10 English teacher. I mean, I don't know if I should name drop him. He is, my year 10 English teacher is one of the best people I think I've
Mm,
met. He, like, English literature for a while was a subject I really struggled with. And
mm,
he was just so supportive in helping me. He was so helpful. He was such a nice person to me. And I'd also say my GCSE computing teacher, she
yeah, yeah.
was a lovely person. She was
Mm,
just amazing to me. She was great with GCSEs, and again, she was so like supportive in helping me and like meeting me during lunchtime just to like help me with GCSEs. It was she like just her and my English teacher. They were two of just like the most helpful and supportive people, and they clearly like had a passion for teaching the subject. Clearly saw that teaching. They clearly wanted to make a difference with their teaching, and both of them have like obviously impact me because now I'm off in sixth form. I'm studying computing and I'm studying film. I actually got an award for English literature, which is really like surprising for me for my GCSE in English literature because
oops. Ran out of time again. Still on the Zoom basic plan recording these podcasts. I do apologize to Isaac and his two teachers that he was talking about. Hope he has a chance to share the podcast with his two teachers. But I must say, I am so impressed with how mature Isaac is in terms of talking about different aspects of education. In particular, he shared how he has coped with being neurodiverse, and I was very, very impressed with the way he made the big decision of transferring from an all-boys school to an all-girls school. And so I would say if you're out there listening to this podcast and you're in a similar situation or your students are in a similar situation, I guess the thing to remember is that we often regret what we didn't do rather than what we did do. I hope you enjoyed listening to Isaac's extraordinary story, and please do join us again next time on Ordinary Teachers and Students.